Skeletons of the Marital Closet by Tang. Chapter 1391. Natalie waved it away. Aram is not like my father. He will never cheat. Those dirty tricks of yours will not do anything to him. Heather originally wanted to talk quietly, but Natalie yelled, and her voice echoed in the living room. Everyone heard it and guessed what Heather said. Shawn raised his eyebrows. How shameless of Heather. Heather looked a little embarrassed. Kid, you are too stubborn. I don't know where you got this temper from. She took 2 steps forward and said, even softer, Natalie, I have been there and understand it too well. Men are simple. You have to satisfy his physical needs, worship him, and put him first in everything. Satisfy his psychological needs, and he won't be able to live without you. You are so young and good looking, and you were raised by Mary. She is a refined lady and showed you how to behave gracefully. However, what she taught you is not enough. You need both so a man can't run away. Aram is a good man, and it's hard to find someone like him these days, so you have to grasp it. Natalie just looked at her coldly. Mary and Heather are really two completely different women. Even Natalie did not understand why her father fell in love with Heather and gave birth to her. Natalie thought it would be great if Mary were her mother. It was a pity that her biological mother was such a cold-hearted, conniving woman. After a long while, Natalie asked, Are you done? Heather replied, Natalie, why do you have to risk your own life? I am here. If you like Aram, I can help you get him. Matthew listened without saying a word. It would be extremely difficult for Aram to be with Natalie again. These words were meant to deceive Natalie. Heather wanted to coax her to turn around and used Aram as bait. It was a good move, but it was a pity that Natalie did not believe it. She slowly raised her eyes and looked at Aram with eyes still filled with obsession and love. The poison in my body has been cured. Dad, do you know how it was cured? Matthew replied, Didn't you and Mr. Wood exchange antidotes? Natalie shook her head and told what happened. That's right, but you definitely don't know the details. Aram took the same poison as me in order to accompany me. In order to save him, I was forced to exchange the antidote with Shawn. The first time I got the antidote, I gave it to Aram, but when I wasn't paying attention, he fed me the antidote. Natalie walked to Aram and squatted down. Aram, are you okay? Have you got the antidote? Yes. She was overjoyed. That's good. I can rest assured. With Gale here, she won't just watch you suffer from the pain. Chapter 1392. Natalie had no worries at all. What about you? Are you still unwilling to listen to what I say? Aram asked. Natalie said, Yes, I will stand by what I say. You. My biological mother is at fault. She shouldn't have been a mistress, and she shouldn't have made the decision to send me to the Yarn family so that I can be exposed to the upper class since I was a child and have a happy marriage with a well-matched family. In the end, I realized that none of these things belong to me. The person wrong here is my dad. He shouldn't be messing around with other women. He shouldn't have cheated after having a family and giving birth to me. The person in the wrong is also Gale. Natalie gritted her teeth. She clearly has a marriage that all women in CCT envy. Why would she still try to steal you away from me? What did I do wrong? I just want to defend what I should have. Aram sighed. No one could persuade Natalie. If you insist on that, then I will make it clear since now that your father and your biological mother are here. I wanted to save you, and I have exhausted all my strength. Various methods were used, but you are still so stubborn, so I have to stop." Matthew and Heather suddenly became anxious. "No, Mr. Lefting, if you give up on Natalie, who else can save her?" Heather said. "Yes, yes, Arum, it's up to you. Don't give up." Matthew was also anxious. "I have done everything I should do, even what I shouldn't have done. But you have also seen that Natalie refuses to repent. How can I still force Shawn and Gale to do it?" Aram looked at Natalie with disappointment on his face. He was the only one working hard, and it was very tiring. Natalie was like a person who fell into the sea. He obviously extended a helping hand. As long as she reached out to grab him, she could be rescued. However, she did not. No matter how hard he stretched out his hand and tried to pull her, it was all in vain. She stood in the water, looking at him. What could Orem do? He had done everything he could because his conscience was clear. This was Natalie's own choice, so let her do it. Natalie saw his disappointment, and her heart was cut by a knife. It was not that she was stubborn and insisted on seeking death, but she could not accept an inferior life in the future. Aram begged Gale to save her. She could be saved if she admitted her mistake and returned to Heather's home as an ordinary girl. How could Natalie, who had always been pampered endlessly, accept such a normal life? What was more, she also lost her favorite Arum. From now on, who would be better than Arum? They would not even be worthy to be compared with Arum. Arum! Arum stood up. "That's it. From now on, I will never interfere in your affairs. Uncle, I really tried my best." He was about to leave. However, Natalie grabbed the trousers. "Wait a minute. You just said something. You said that you even did things you shouldn't do? Arum, what is that you shouldn't do?" she said. After being engaged for many years and sharing the same bed, Natalie knew Arum. He was an upright and honorable gentleman who never engaged in wheeling and dealing. So, the things he said he should not do must have been against his conscience. What did Arum do to save her? Chapter 1393. Arum stood up straight. "It's pointless to tell you." "I would like to know." "I won't tell you." Natalie looked up at him. "Arum, this may be the last time we see each other. Are you sure you want me to live this lifetime of regrets?" Arum did not answer her. He would not tell her, and Natalie should never know the truth. He deceived her in exchange for the antidote. That would be a knot in Arum's heart for the rest of his life. Ignorance is bliss. However, at this moment, Heather next to her suddenly spoke. "Could it be that Mr. Lefting took the poison as you?" Natalie frowned. "He ate it voluntarily. He thought it was worth it. How could it be the thing he said he shouldn't do?" "Don't think about it, Natalie. Take care of yourself," Arm said. "Just pretend that she never appeared." However, Heather's mind was moving. She ran it through in her mind and suddenly thought of something. "No, there must be something else," Heather shouted. Natalie looked at her. "What are you talking about?" Aram did not take Heather seriously either. The only person he respected was Mary, not this mistress who appeared out of nowhere. How big of a stir could Heather make? "Did Mr. Lefting take the poison himself? Natalie, did you see it with your own eyes? Only Mr. Wood has that poison, right?" Heather asked. "Shawn gave it to him. Besides, I didn't see it with my own eyes. When I saw Aram, he had already taken it." "Did he have a seizure?" Natalie nodded. Heather asked again. "He gave you the antidote in exchange, but now he also has the antidote. Did Gale give it to him?" Natalie nodded. You silly child! Heather rushed to her. You must have been deceived, for sure. Natalie was a little confused. Deceived? Yes, Mr. Lefting and Gale have such a good relationship. I saw today that he and Mr. Wood are on speaking terms. Since they are friends, why would they give him the poison? Even if he takes it, he will definitely give him the antidote afterward. How dare you hand over the antidote? Shawn's expression quickly changed. Even Gale's heart ached. Hurry, we need to stop her from talking. Aram was closest to Heather. He had already stepped forward and covered Heather's mouth. Heather's voice was suddenly cut off, and she could only make a sound of resistance. Natalie looked at Heather without blinking. Heather's hands kept flapping, but her eyes were always looking at her. Mother and daughter looked at each other. Heather's words kept echoing in Natalie's mind. It was true. They were friends, and Aram would eventually get the antidote. Uncle, take her away. It's time for her to leave. Besides, Natalie doesn't like her, Aram said. Chapter 1394. Matthew stood still. How could he just leave? Seeing that Matthew did not help, Aram could only cover Heather's mouth with one hand, hold her shoulder with the other, and drag her outside. Gale saw this and stepped forward to help. What Heather just said was too dangerous. No one expected that Heather would see through Aram's true plan at a glance. Gale knew that Aram wanted to hide it. After all, the truth was too cruel, and there was no need to rub salt into Natalie's pain. Anyway, the antidote has been obtained, and Nicole has regained consciousness. It was better to hide it as much as possible. However, Natalie suddenly ran toward Heather in a crazy manner. Natalie knocked Gale away. Gale just walked forward to help Aram, thinking that Heather was a very aggressive woman. Aram had always been a gentleman, so he would definitely not be able to subdue her. Natalie collided with them. Gale fell. Gaily! Shawn ran toward her. However, he was a distance away. Before he rushed over, Gale had already fallen down. He quickly lifted her up and held her in his arms. Are you okay? Gale was a little confused by the sudden fall, and it took her a few seconds to react. She shook her head. I'm fine. Natalie. Before she finished speaking, she heard Natalie's sharp voice. Let her go, Aram. Let her finish what she is going to say. Don't cover her mouth. Are you afraid of something? Are you guilty? Heather was struggling wildly, and Natalie also tried her best to pull Aram's hand away. How could Aram be a match for two crazy people? What was more, Matthew also joined in. He helped Heather and Natalie. Soon, Heather was free. As soon as her mouth was released, she screamed sharply. Natalie, you must have been deceived. Aram took the poison just to trick you off the antidote. Then he must have felt guilty and give you the antidote I got in exchange. They are friends and a team, so how could Shawn let Aram take the poison and endure the poison? You are still young and you can't understand, but I have seen this trick a long time ago. This must be their conspiracy to join forces to deceive. The bodyguards outside heard the noise inside and rushed in immediately. They were well trained and large in numbers. They quickly controlled Heather and quickly dragged her out. Heather's eyes widened, and she tried to say something, but there was no chance. She quickly disappeared into the living room. Matthew was worried about her and wanted to run after her, but then remembered that Natalie was still there and was in a dilemma for a while. After thinking about it, Matthew was still worried about Heather. Natalie, I'm going to check on your mother. After making sure she is okay, I'll be right back. Just wait for me. Don't do anything stupid. Do you hear me? Matthew said. After saying that, Matthew ran out. Natalie stood there without saying a word. She looked in the direction where Heather disappeared without blinking. Chapter 1395. Slowly, she looked at Aurum. Gale endured the pain of her fall and said, Aurum, you go first. Leave this to me. Aurum was not good at lying. Moreover, he could not lie to Natalie. Even if he did it reluctantly, it would be full of loopholes and could be seen through at a glance. So there was no point in him staying here. He might as well leave. She or Shawn could deal with Natalie. Aurum also understood and nodded. Okay. He could not face Natalie because he had lied to her. Once Natalie asked, he would not know how to answer her. Aurum turned around. As soon as he took a step, he heard Natalie's voice. Stop! He paused. Natalie walked up to him and blocked his way. You want to leave? Yes. Won't you save me? You are hopeless. I have tried my best, Aurum said. Natalie looked at him and started laughing. Her laughter was willful, echoing in the living room, so shrill and harsh. How could anyone laugh like this? She laughed so horribly that tears flowed out of her eyes. Her face was filled with tears and was extremely desolate. Yeah, you want to save me so much, but I still insist on my own way. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid, Arum. I am the stupidest woman in the world, right? Look at me now. You didn't expect me to be so stupid, right? Fortunately, you didn't marry me. With my intelligence, how could I be worthy of marrying you? I care about you so much that I become stupid. It's that simple, but I only just figure out it now. Arum pursed his lips. Natalie, what do you want to know? What do you think I should know? And what are you afraid of? And what are you running from? Arum avoided looking at Natalie. What Heather just said struck a chord with me. I understand. Natalie burst into tears. What is your relationship with Gale? What is your relationship with Shawn? You have been poisoned and need an antidote. How can it be my turn to save you? You said you made a deal with Shawn, and the poison you took, just to take me back to the Lefting family, were all lies? Natalie roared hysterically. Veins popped up on her forehead, and she raised her head, helpless and desolate. Arum was her last belief, and her only true love, but now her hope had collapsed. Gone. Nothing left. Natalie finally understood everything. You just wanted to get Nicole's antidote. You deliberately teamed up with Shawn to put on this act, and took advantage of my love for you. You deliberately. You plotted against me, Natalie said. She fell to the ground weakly, holding her hands on the ground, looking at the smooth and translucent marble floor, reflecting her embarrassing appearance. Arum did not say a word. Natalie wiped her face. Did I say something wrong? If I did, correct me, Arum. Arum, are you mute? Please tell me that everything I guessed was wrong, that I am overthinking it. Please tell me quickly. Arm's lips moved, and he hesitated to speak several times. In the end, he remained silent. Chapter 1396. You can't lie, Arm. I know that much. The closer you are to someone, the less likely you are to tell lies. Unless you're treating me, Natalie said. After pausing for a few seconds, she laughed again. Yes, you have always treated me as your sister. I almost forgot. But this time, I hope you lie. If you lie to me again, I won't feel so terrible. Natalie really wanted to be deceived by him for the rest of her life. She did not want to know the truth. It was all Heather's fault that she knew the bloody truth. You misunderstood Aurum. Gale came over, stood between the two of them, and looked at Natalie on the ground. Aram took the poison to take you back to his house. I didn't even think about it at the time. I was there and found out later. Natalie raised her head and stared at Gale carefully. I want Aram to say these things to me, not you, she gritted her teeth. Why are you interrupting? He's already exhausted physically and mentally because of you. How else do you want to torture him? Natalie hummed. Aram can't lie, so you lie for him? Is that right? I'm telling the truth. Don't think Aram is so shameless, Gale said very calmly. However, Natalie would not believe it. Gale, I won't even listen to a single thing you say. You can lie with your eyes open and you can cover up the truth for Aram, but I am smarter than that. I have a brain. Why can't you believe that Aram took the poison just to save you? If he wants the antidote in your hand, he has plenty of ways. Why would he risk his own health? That's poison, not a health product or a vitamin. Gale's words were half true and half false. Aram did not want to save Natalie, and he did not want to get the antidote for Nicole. He had two purposes. Now, Gale was helping Aram conceal the purpose of obtaining the antidote, emphasizing saving Natalie. It was because Aram did not want Natalie to know the truth. However, it was no use. Natalie stood up unsteadily. Why bother to continue lying to me? You just put on a show in front of me, using my love and my feelings to get what you need. No, Natalie interrupted Gale. That's enough. Stop talking. I understand it all. No matter how many explanations were given, in Natalie's opinion, they were just covering it up. She was deceived. She was moved to tears by Aram's behavior. But what was the result? Just a trick. Everyone was an actor, but she, Natalie, stupidly became the one who was most deeply involved in the drama. They teamed up to deceive her. It's really hard for you. You all worked so hard to cooperate with Aram and put on a show. You learned that Winnie's blood is the other half of the antidote. I was too stupid. I was too worried about him, so I didn't think too much. You just took advantage of my feelings for him. Gale nodded and suddenly admitted, Yes. Her change of words caught Natalie off guard and stunned her. This was Shawn and I's idea. Aram didn't know about it, Gale said. Chapter 1397. She distanced herself from Aram and put the responsibility on her and Shawn. In this case, maybe Natalie would feel better, and Aram would feel better too. However, Natalie did not believe it. Natalie pointed her hand back and forth at them. This requires the full cooperation of the three of you. How could Aram not know about it? How could he stay out of it? Whether I hand over the antidote or not, you will eventually cure Aram. There is no way you can torture him like you tortured me. You just teamed up to lie to me. You lied to me. Aram, I love you so much. Is this what my love meant to you? Natalie shouted. Aram met her eyes, and after 3 seconds, he said, I'm sorry. Natalie's body shook violently. He admitted it. Gale glanced at Shawn deeply and sighed. Aram admitted. She tried to cover up and take responsibility, but it was useless. Gale knew that Aram felt guilty inside, so after getting Nicole's antidote, he became more determined to save Natalie to make up for the uneasiness in his heart. However, the truth was revealed. It has no impact on us. Natalie knows, so what? It's just that Aram will blame himself for deceiving and taking advantage of Natalie's feelings, Shawn said calmly. Aram felt uncomfortable, and Gale also felt uncomfortable too. People who care about each other would feel empathy for each other. Shawn did not feel anything. He did not care about Aram, let alone Natalie. His eyes and heart were full of nothing but Gale. Natalie rushed to Aram and grabbed his sleeves with both hands. Why, Aram? Why? Why did you do this to me? Do you know how happy I was at that time? I saw you staying with me for me. I feel sad and happy at the same time. I love you so much, and you were also affectionate and righteous to me, she kept asking. At that time, I was thinking, even if I die, I will definitely get the antidote for you. I will give Shawn whatever he wants, as long as I have it, as long I can afford it. I will give it all to you. You know what Nicole's antidote means to me. It's my lifeline. As long as I don't hand over the antidote, Shawn can't do anything to me. But in order to save you, I handed it over. But you... Natalie cried so hard that she almost lost her voice, hoarse and unpleasant. You lied to me. You used me. You want to save Nicole. Yes, that is Gale's precious daughter, her sweetheart. You love Gale so deeply. How can you let her be sad? Compared with her, I, Natalie, am nothing. The despair in her heart was unprecedented. Such torture and truth made Natalie 1,000 times more uncomfortable than death. Aram raised his hand and held her shoulders firmly. Natalie, listen to me. His voice shook slightly, but he tried hard to stay calm. After you hand over the antidote, it doesn't mean you have no chance of survival. I am still trying to save you. You just said you wanted to give up on me. You have to leave. Chapter 1398. It's because you are stubborn and refuse to listen to advice. Face your mistakes and change your ways, okay? Aram said. Natalie gritted her teeth hard, and the smell of blood filled her mouth. She looked at Aram intently. Aram asked softly, Would you do it? You only need to do this one thing. Admit your mistake. Leave the rest to me. Natalie still looked at him. After a long while, she asked, If Shawn lets me go, after I am free, can I still be with you? Natalie, she interrupted irritably, just wanting to hear what he had to say. You tell me whether you tell me whether I can or I You tell me whether I can or I can't. You tell me whether I can or I can't. It's impossible. It's impossible for us to be together anymore, Aram said. Natalie nodded. Okay, I understand. In her mind, she had already sketched out her life after regaining her new life. She would leave Sea City. Her mother would be Heather, Matthew would lose Yarn Group, and Matthew, Heather, and she would become a family of 3. They would live a life of poverty, ordinariness, and suffering. If she occasionally ran into old acquaintances from the past, she would be laughed at and looked down upon. Could the proud Natalie accept this? No. Even if she died, she would not want to live like that. However, Natalie said, Just admit my mistake. Aram was startled. Really? Would you really? Have you figured it out? Do you want to admit your mistake? He was a little excited, and his hands unconsciously exerted force, causing Natalie pain, which made her hiss in pain. Aram quickly let go. It's okay. It doesn't hurt. Natalie, you really? Really, Aram, I'm tired too, Natalie said. She raised her eyes and looked at the living room of Lefting's home, the place where she had lived for many years, her second home. She was looking forward to becoming the real lady of the house, and to the fact that after getting the marriage license, others would change her name from Miss Yarn to Mrs. Lefting. Natalie waited and waited, but it never came. She could never wait any longer. She also lost her identity as Miss Yarn. Natalie began to walk back and forth in the living room, stroking the furnishings in the living room. I suddenly didn't know what I was holding on to. My family is gone, my love is gone, and my freedom is gone. I almost lost my life, she said. Yes, Natalie, no matter what, you must live well. Yes, only when you are alive can you have opportunities, hope, and everything possible. When you die, you really have nothing. Natalie laughed at herself. Why didn't I think about this before? There were many things she could do if she were alive. Natalie thought she would not even have anyone to support her if she died. It would be such a disadvantage. Nicole was now awake and normal. Gale's life was so happy and perfect. She had everything she wanted, and she was so admired and rich. How could she stand aside and watch? Before, she could make Gale miserable. Now, Gale was completely at ease. She refused to allow Gale to win. Chapter 1399. Natalie's eyes flashed with calculating light. No one saw it because she lowered her head. Aram did not even notice. He did not expect Natalie to suddenly figure it out. He was very surprised. Natalie, I am glad you came to that conclusion. You still have a family. You are still so young, and the road ahead will be long. Don't limit yourself, he said happily. Natalie nodded. Suddenly, she was no longer stubborn, and her thoughts seemed to be reversed. Yes, Aram, I met my biological mother. The person I always call Daddy is indeed my dad. I know who I am. I am not an orphan. Compared with many people in this world, I can be much happier. Yes, that's really great. At this time, Matthew walked in from outside. He frowned. Aram, can you help me and get them to not be so rude to Heather? I'm worried, but I am just a helpless old man. Natalie took the initiative to answer. Dad, tell Mom to wait for me. She shouldn't cause any more trouble. The bodyguards won't do anything to her. Matthew was about to nod, but thought of something again and looked at her in shock and surprise. Natalie finally called him Dad again. Moreover, she also called Heather her mom. What happened? Matthew looked at Aram. What? Natalie has figured it out. She is willing to admit her mistake and repent, Aram said. Matthew was extremely excited and joyfully said, Really? That's great! He was out for a while just now. What happened in the living room? Who said what? Heather's words just now caused a bloody storm, and the scene instantly became chaotic. Matthew thought there would be chaos, but he did not expect. Did she calm down? How did she calm down? Natalie was seen walking in front of Shawn and Gale. Shawn's expression was indifferent. His sharp gaze fell on her, and he glanced away gently. Gale stepped back. From the bottom of her heart, she felt that Natalie was terrifying. She did not want to get close to her, and she just wanted to distance herself. The next second, there was a plop, and Natalie knelt on the ground. I'm sorry, Mr. Wood, Mrs. Wood. Because of my selfishness and viciousness, I have brought you so much trouble and made Miss Nicole sick. I helped Winnie in her evil acts. I never realized what kind of trouble I had caused. Now, after going through so much, I finally figured it out. Before, it was because I was too confused and stubborn that I refused to repent. Now, with the teachings of my parents and Aram's good heart of never abandoning or letting go, I have figured it out. Everything I did wrong was my fault, and the responsibility lies with me. I don't know how to ask you to forgive me. I can only bow to you. After saying that, Natalie bent down and knocked her forehead heavily on the marble floor. There was a muffled bang sound. It hurt to hear. Natalie knocked her head too hard. However, secretly, this was just the beginning. Natalie began to bow nonstop, slamming her head on the floor. Soon, blood began to appear on the ground. Natalie's forehead was bright red and bloody. She had no intention of stopping at all and kept bowing her head as if she could not feel the pain. Chapter 1400. Matthew, next to her, felt heartbroken when he saw it. Okay, Natalie, stop. However, Natalie did not listen to him at all and kept bowing. Matthew looked at Gale again. Gale, please tell her to stop. Enough is enough. She has been knocking her forehead dozens of times. She already knows her mistake. Gale just watched quietly. She felt something was wrong. How could Natalie change all of a sudden? It was too fast. Knowing that Aram took the medicine to trick her into getting the antidote should be enough to destroy all of Natalie's beliefs. She would go crazy, collapse, become furious. However, Natalie actually admitted her mistake? That did not make sense. Seeing that Natalie was still bowing and Shawn and Gale were silent, Matthew went to Aram again and said, Look, how many times has she done it? If she keeps knocking anymore, she will have a concussion. Let's go stop her. Was this not what Shawn and Gale wanted? Did they not just want to see her crawling at their feet, like a dog at the slaughter? Did they not just enjoy the feeling of being aloof and having the power of life and death? Then, Natalie would satisfy them now. Bowing her head today was for revenge in the future. How could she just admit defeat like this? Okay, it's too loud, Shawn finally said calmly. Natalie knelt upright and replied, I can do it without making a sound. Blood flowed down her forehead, across her eyes, cheeks, and corners of her mouth, and gathered on her chin, slowly dripping to the ground. There was already a pool of dark red blood in front of Natalie. You are more flexible than I thought. Shawn stood upright with a little bright red blood on the toe of his leather shoes. When you are stubborn, no one can persuade you. When you change your mind, you can grovel as fast as you can. Natalie lowered her eyes. I was wrong, Mr. Wood. If you want to beat, scold, kill, or cut me into pieces, I can do it. I deserve to bear it. Don't target my parents again. Shawn snorted coldly. Others might not be able to see through it and would be attracted to Natalie's current miserable appearance and would sympathize with her. However, Shawn would not. He had always been ruthless, cold-blooded, and aloof. Until now, he had only been affectionate, kind, and warm in front of Gale. Shawn lowered her head and looked at the blood on the tips of his leather shoes. He had misophobia and hated dirt. Gale understood and turned around to get a tissue. At this moment, Natalie knelt on the ground and used the corner of her clothes to wipe away the blood on Shawn's leather shoes bit by bit. She polished them very carefully and did not take back her hand until the leather shoes became smooth and bright again. It's clean, Mr. Wood. Shawn smiled slightly. Natalie, your act is useless to me. Natalie replied very calmly. Mr. Wood, I don't have any tricks. I soiled your shoes, so I should clean them for you. Stand up. Natalie kept quiet. I won't say it a second time. Natalie slowly stood up, but she still lowered her head. The way I look now is very scary. I'm afraid of scaring Mrs. Wood.